Did you know that money fights are one of the top reasons relationships break down? But what if I told you that love and money don't have to be at war? In fact, they can work together to build a future of abundance, peace, and purpose. In today's episode of Wholeness Wednesdays, we will be diving into keys to financial wholeness as a couple. And so, in celebration of the Valentine's holiday, we're going to be talking about how to align your money with your values, avoid common financial pitfalls, and create a strong, thriving partnership. If you and your partner have ever struggled with budgeting, financial stress, or money conversations, this episode is for you. Stay tuned. Your financial breakthrough starts now.
Good morning, or good afternoon, or maybe it's evening. It doesn't really matter what time it is, and it doesn't even matter where you are. We want to welcome you to Wholeness Wednesdays. So grab a cup of coffee or tea and join our host, Beatrice Hutchison, as we explore and experience our journey to complete wholeness.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Completely Whole's Wholeness Wednesdays, where we focus on achieving wholeness in every area of life, mind, body, spirit, and even finances. So today's topic is a big one. We are going to be talking about love and money, two of the most powerful forces in our lives. Money is one of the top causes of stress in relationships, I'm sure, as you know, but it doesn't have to be. If you and your partner can align your finances with wisdom, intention, and shared goals, you can create a life of abundance and harmony together. So, whether you're newly dating, engaged, or married, or interested in becoming either of those one day, this episode will help you to navigate your finances in your relationship with wisdom and unity. Let's dive in. All right, so we're going to first talk about why do love and money matter together? Why is it important for us to pay attention to the two together, right? Money is not just about numbers. It's about values and security and even trust. And so how you and your partner handle money reflects your mindset, your upbringing, and your vision for the future. Do you know that money issues are one of the top reasons couples argue? And that's the top reason for divorce rates as well. But here's the good news. Financial wholeness is possible when you and your partner work together. And so today I'll be sharing 7 essential principles for building financial wholeness in your relationship. So are you ready? I hope so. Get your pen and paper and let's go. So let's start with principle 1. Communicate openly about money. The foundation of financial wholeness is honest communication. As with any relationship, communication is key. And so if you're in a relationship, you want to ask each other these questions, or if you're looking to be, you want to take note of these questions. So in a relationship, ask each other, do we talk about money openly? Do we know each other's financial goals, each other's debts, as well as spending habits? Do we feel safe discussing our financial concerns? And so set aside time for money dates. And so what those are regular check-ins where you discuss your budget, your upcoming expenses, things that you would like to do together, your short and your long-term goals. Transparency builds trust. And so some biblical knowledge around this here. There's a scripture that says 2 are better than 1 because they have a good return for their labor, right? So talking about that working together, that unity. And that's in Ecclesiastes 4, verse 9. Now let's talk about principle 2. Align your financial values. So money isn't just a number. It's not just about numbers. It's about values. And so you and your partner might have different perspectives on spending and saving depending on how you were reared, what experiences you had. It can be very different. So maybe one of you is a saver, whereas the other one is a spender. And so that's okay. It doesn't matter. The key here is that you are aligned, right? So the key here is alignment. And so you want to ask each other, what are our financial priorities? What does financial freedom look like for us? And how can we honor God with our finances? And so after we ask each other those questions, right, and get an understanding about each other's perspectives, then we want to take an action step. We want to put a practical step. We want to implement something. So create a shared vision, a written vision. What does financial success look like for us as a couple? And then you want to write it down, right? And so the biblical verse here is where there is no vision, the people perish, right? Proverbs 29, verse 18. Now let's talk about principle number 3. Set shared financial goals, right? And so I mentioned that a little bit. We're going to talk deeper here about that. So having a shared vision is great, but now it's time to get practical. Set clear financial goals together. So in reference to your short-term goals, those could consist of paying off a credit card, saving for a vacation. Your midterm goals would be more of like buying a home, investing for the long run. And then your long-term goals would look like retirement and generational wealth. And so the action step here would be to sit down with your partner and write 3 financial goals for next year. So make sure they're specific and achievable, right? Those SMART goals. You want to make sure that those components are there. And so Habakkuk 2:2 says, write the vision and make it plain, right? So it's important that you write it down, right? Because then the reader can run with it. Now let's talk about principle 4. Create a budget that works for both of you. And so a budget isn't about restriction. Although it may feel like it, it's not about restriction. It's about freedom. A well-planned budget helps you to avoid financial stress and helps you to also focus on what truly matters. And so now I want to talk to you about the 50-30-20 rule. And so you may have heard me talk about this in a prior episode. But I wanted to mention it here because it is a part of one of the plans or the strategies here that we could utilize to help us when we are budgeting, right? So the 50-30-20 rule I kind of do a version of that, which is the 50-30-10-10 rule, and I'll talk about what that is. But what it looks like for the 50-30-20 rule is that 50% of your expenses are designated to your necessities. Those are your needs. Those are the things that you absolutely have to use or spend to live, right? So that means your rent or your mortgage, your utilities, your groceries, transportation. Those are things that you absolutely have to have in order to live comfortably, right? And then the other part of that, the 30%, then goes towards your wants. And so those are things like, entertainment, any things that you like to do, any other types of activities that are outside of what you absolutely need to survive. Those would go under the bucket of your wants, right? So you have your needs, you have your wants, and then the 20% in the 50-30-20 rule, that 20% is to go towards your investments and savings, right? And so I mentioned about the 50-30-10-10 rule, and that's just kind of a derivative of the 50-30-20 rule, and that the 50% still goes towards your needs, the 30% goes towards your wants, but then 10% instead of the 10% goes towards your investments and your savings, right? And then the other 10%, if you're a believer and you believe in tithing, then that other 10% goes towards your tithing. And so that is what is meant by the 50-30-10-10 rule. And so it's important that you even if you don't use this particular system, make sure that you do have a system. You need to find a system that works for both of you. And then the important thing is to stick to it. And so the Bible verse here that I would like to share is be diligent to know the state of your flocks and attend to your herds, right? So being attentive and knowing, being aware of what's going on with your finances. And that verse comes from Proverbs 27 and 23. Let's talk about the next principle. Principle number 5. And so this is a key strategy. Not that all of them aren't, but this is very important. Be transparent and create a joint plan. So one of the most important strategies for handling credit as a couple is full transparency. Both partners should openly discuss their credit history, their current debts, and their financial goals and where they are in the process. And so together, create a joint strategy for managing your credit responsibly, right? And so what that plan should include would be, number one, we talk about a checking credit. You would check your credit reports together to know exactly where you stand, right? And to be transparent with that. Also, setting shared goals for improving or maintaining good credit, right? And then another thing you want to do is avoid unnecessary debt and using credit wisely. So you want to be intentional about that, and you need to plan to do that. Also, decide on debt repayment plan. Create a debt repayment plan that aligns to your income and your budget where you currently are. And most importantly, keep communication open about your financial concerns. And so some biblical wisdom here is the rich rule over the poor and the borrower is the slave to the lender, right? So that's Proverbs 22 and 7. So this verse reminds us of the importance of financial wisdom and discipline when it comes to debt. And as a couple, staying intentional about how you use credit will help you to build financial freedom instead of financial bondage. Very important. And if you are one that believes that it is that you can use credit as leverage, right? That's also an option, but if so, you need to plan accordingly. All right, so now let's talk about the next principle, which is number 6. And so with this principle, you want to build wealth together, right? And also you want to honor God with your finances. So one of the most beautiful things that a couple can do together is to build wealth. Not just for themselves, but for their future generations, right? Building that generational wealth. And so in order to do this, you must align yourself appropriately, right? So you want to start investing early. Also build an emergency fund. Give generously and tithe. And then also you want to help those that are in need. True financial wholeness comes when you honor God with your money. So giving and stewardship is also a way to honor God. These are key parts of financial success. And some biblical wisdom here is honor the Lord with your wealth and with the first fruits of your produce, which is Proverbs 3 verse 9. So very important. And how you steward your money, right? Because we often talk about giving the tithe, but we don't talk about how we steward money, and that's how well we manage it. Let's talk about principle 7. Pray and speak over your finances. And so one of the most important things that a couple can do is to also pray and to decree over their finances. Remember that words are power, and we talked about this in the past. Life and death are in the power of your tongue. So it is important to both be in agreement about what you speak and to speak that over your finances. And so there is power in agreement. And so if you speak together, it says in the word of 2 or 3 witnesses, every word is established. So you want to do that. Speak the same thing, consistently pray over your finances, consistently speak over them. And what I mean by that is to tell it what to do, right? Assign tasks to your money. Speak affirmations over your money, because true financial wholeness comes when you honor God as well with your finances. And so we talked about how you steward it, paying your tithe, but also speaking life into your finances is also important. And so the scripture here is, and I mentioned that in 2 Corinthians 13 and 1, the latter part of that scripture says, on the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let every word be established. And so there is power in speaking over your finances. And so today, I hope that it really does stick with you and that you understand that love and money do not have to be a source of stress. So when you and your partner communicating, you communicate well about your finances and you align your values, you set your goals together, and you steward your finances wisely, you'll build a stronger, more abundant future together. And I understand that this may be easier said than done, right? Because you both have to be of the same mindset, and that may not be as easy to do, right? There may be, and as I mentioned earlier, based on how you were reared, based on how you believe, it can be very different, and it may be very hard getting on the same page. But you need to really be able to sit with your partner and to really start talking about your finances, learning to build that trust, learning to build that communication around your finances, right? It's a sensitive situation, especially if someone is coming to the relationship and are in debt, right? Or either you're in a relationship and you manage debt poorly, right? Or you manage your credit poorly. All of those things can create sensitive situations, right? And so you want to make sure that you're able to come together and come into agreement and to honestly and openly talk about these things. Talk about how it makes you feel. Have those discussions, because you don't want it to be something that just kind of builds and builds and then it gets to the place to where it implodes and explodes, right? And then you end up with relationships breaking down. You end up with divorce, all because you could not come together and talk about your finances. Because no matter where you are in your finances, no matter where you are in your debt, you can create a plan and work your way out of it, right? And so it looks different for everyone based on where they are, but you can create a plan and you can come out of it. So it doesn't make sense to have to lose relationships over something that can be resolved if you work together. So it's very, very important that you understand that, right? And so bringing together the mindsets, or at least having a basic understanding of this is something that is important that we must communicate and plan for, so that it can be, so that we can work towards that and achieve our goals and the outcomes that we expect. And then ultimately to create generational wealth, right? Because that's certainly what we want to do. We want it to pass on from generation to generation, right? We don't want to cause a hardship when we're gone to our loved ones, but we want to have them set up for generations to come. And the only way that happens is if, as a couple, you can come together and talk about those finances. And as I stated, you may not be on the same page. You may not have the exact same mindset, but you can learn, you can read books about it, you can listen to podcasts about it, get some education together, some financial literacy, where you can learn about money, how it works, so that you both can have an equal understanding and so that you both can come to the table at least to have the discussions. And you may not have the same mindset. You two people may be different. I'll give you myself as an example. I'm the one that loves to sit and plan, right? And so, but my husband, on the other hand, he will sit and plan, but for him it has to go quickly, right? He's not one to sit there and brainstorm and do all of those things for an extended amount of time. So we have our own special way of doing it, and that, yes, we come to the table, we talk about our finances, we plan for our goals and what we would like to accomplish. But my husband will task me, like I'm tasked with the job to create like the basic budget, right? So when we say, okay, we're going to create a budget together, I come with already kind of the basics, the bare minimums already plugged in, right? And so then when we meet together, okay, now we're talking about what are going to be our priorities and how it's going to work, right? So because we know each other and that we know how each other work, right? And so I give that to you as an example so that you understand that it may not be that both are coming and both are very interested in finances, because in most cases it's not, right? You have one spouse typically that it will be the one that pays all the bills or is at least responsible for that, right? Both may contribute, but then one is the one just responsible for making sure they're submitted, different things like that. It's okay. However you have it set up, is fine. Whatever works for the two of you, but make sure that there is agreement, because there is power in agreement. Make sure you are in agreement and that you are aligned together when it comes to your goals and what you are achieve or looking to achieve with your finances. So it's very important for you to do that. It may look different for everyone based on how you communicate together, right? And what your style is. I mentioned how my husband and I do ours, but for you it may be something different, and it's fine. But the key is alignment. All right. I would like to challenge you. So after you listen to this episode, maybe not tonight, but tomorrow, sit down with your partner and have a money conversation. Talk about what your shared goals are and what changes you can put in place that could help to move you towards financial wholeness. And so, here we talk about wholeness on this channel. And so we're talking about financial wholeness because it is very important. And yes, happy Valentine's Day to all of you. We will be celebrating that tomorrow. But I wanted to come and talk to you about love and finances because it's important that they work together well. And so we don't want relationships to break down. We want to celebrate love as well as be able to build our finances in a positive way, because we are working towards that generational wealth. And so make sure that you sit down, have that conversation. Maybe you are a couple that already has these types of conversations. So still, the challenge is still to you, but it's to challenge yourselves even further in the conversation. What other goals can we put in place? What other things that can we put in place? How can we modify what we already do to help us reach our goal a little bit quicker? Right? So it's important that you have those discussions, but I challenge you to do that. Have a money conversation, and then let's continue the conversation. And so you can send me a message, you can comment below, and we can talk about it. Let me know if you were able to, maybe revise your goals, or maybe share a goal that you put in place. And maybe even if it's not share a goal, right? Maybe just the fact that you were able to sit down and have the conversation with your partner. It's very important together to be together, plan together, to work towards, be unified towards your goal. So thank you so much for being with us today. And if you love the episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more Wholeness Wednesdays content. And so I'm your host, Beatrice Hutcherson. And remember that your journey to wholeness, complete wholeness that is, it starts here. And so as we always do, let us affirm together. So please repeat after me. I decree that our financial breakthrough starts now. And I declare that we will not just grow wealth, but generational wealth. Wonderful. And my prayer for each of you is that you will receive healing and complete wholeness in every area of your life. Let's make together 2025 a year of exponential growth and wealth. Happy Valentine's Day again, and until next time, take care of yourself, mind, body, and soul. Stay blessed, enjoy love, build your wealth, and be made whole.
We thank you for sharing this time with us here at Wholeness Wednesdays. Thank you for joining us to explore and experience this journey to complete wholeness. Please remember that we are only an email away. Your questions and input are welcome via bhutch@completelywhole1.com. See you next time here at Wholeness Wednesdays.